many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Turning too many knobs over here. And welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on UCY.TV. Thank you for joining me this evening. I want to kind of get into Jade Helm to start off with. It's something that I've had a lot of people ask me about, a lot of discussions over it. And my main point is I do believe that they are training for something here on U.S. soil. I don't know if it's going to be civil unrest, something that they're planning on happening, or another political reason. There's a lot of possibilities, but this is also what plays out worldwide with what's going on. And we discussed the drills over in Europe with the NATO countries that are rivaling our own, Russia and China operating in the Mediterranean doing drills, but this report I have here is from Next News Network. This is Jade Helm preparing for Armageddon. And then I also have an article here we'll go over after I play this clip. And, we'll discuss some of the possible. I actually have another article I really want to cover too that people have claimed to be part of this. So, we'll get into the possibilities, but really the main issue comes down to they're doing this. It's causing fear, and they really have created a atmosphere where people don't trust the government. For some reason, you will have people that don't trust the government take the money from the government, and they don't realize you're basically allowing yourself to be bought off. And I think that's all going to come to a head too. But let's go ahead and get into this from Next News Network on YouTube, and then we'll cover these articles here. Jade Helm preparing for Armageddon.
world's armies are preparing for an Armageddon-scale war, not like anything we've ever seen in global history. Every nation of significance is drilling their troops for battle. The drills are the largest scale ever conducted by those militaries. In the United States, the Jade Helm 15 exercise is poised to break all known records as special forces deploy to occupy 10 American states. In Europe, NATO is conducting the largest ever military drills in world history.
U.S. Army troops resumed Operation Atlantic Resolve land forces training of allied and partner forces last week. Commander U.S. Army Europe Lieutenant General Ben Hodges joined his Latvian counterparts at this welcome ceremony in Adazi, Latvia. Training will include combined multinational platoon-level exercises and live fires involving a combination of vehicle and foot soldier maneuvers.
Tens of thousands of troops are preparing for war. For the first time in the Mediterranean Sea, Chinese and Russian naval vessels are conducting live-fire war games. Earthquakes are rocking remote corners of the world, leaving behind thousands of casualties. The earthquake in Nepal was so devastating that the highest mountain in the world, Mount Everest, shrunk by 1 inch. In the Midwestern United States, from Missouri to Michigan, rare quakes rock cities and rural areas, signaling the New Madrid fault line is under great stress.
It is the largest quake to ever hit in West Michigan in decades. The epicenter is in Kalamazoo County. That's about 5 miles south of Galesburg. The U.S. Geological Survey measured it as a magnitude 4.2. As you can see here, we've got the epicenter marked. It's not far from Kalamazoo, and it really is one of the largest to ever hit.
Christians are being beheaded as enemies of Christ broadcast their murders for the whole world to see. Bankers are making the case to abolish cash. The states are outlawing personal cash transactions.
Cold, hard cash. It's good everywhere you go, right? You can use it for anything, to pay for anything. But that's not the case here in Louisiana now. It's a law that was passed during this year's busy legislative session.
People, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, are willingly chipping themselves so they can buy and sell using Bitcoin.
A Dutch man had 2 wireless computer chips implanted in his body. He did it so he could store digital money and use chips for other purposes like program an alarm clock. Martin Wismeyer is an entrepreneur, and the London Telegraph reports that he decided the chips aren't secure enough yet to use permanently. He says the chips need to be encrypted so that information can't be stolen from them. But he says the experiment was a success. He says the chips can be used not only for digital currency, but as keys for your house, for monitoring your health, even helping call a doctor if you have a heart attack. And he believes people who use the chips are helping to make them socially acceptable.
America is intervening in the affairs of nations under the guise of spreading freedom around the globe. Have the nations had enough to drink of her wrath? Is America the great whore of Babylon, soon to be destroyed?
Okay. Now, a lot of people are claiming that, well, there's going to be a World War III and America is going to be the, epicenter of it. And that could be true. But I think the reason a lot of maybe the NATO troops are training to coalesce has been brought up, to go along with our training, including troops that we have over in Europe. I have two articles here. Let me try to find them here. If I can. Maybe not. Thought I had it here. Let me see if I can search it real quick. Thought I had it up. See if I put it on the Facebook page. Just kind of going back and forth. Yeah. It's at facebook.com/anti-tyranny news. I have it posted up there. This one from gunowners.org. Secret deal contain a myriad of gun restrictions and ammo bans. Action: Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Senator Orrin Hatch may soon give the president authority to write gun control restrictions into a trade agreement. Will UN-style gun control be rammed down our throats? Gun import bans, micro-stamping of firearms, ammunition bans, the full implementation of the anti-gun UN arms trade treaty, illegal amnesty, which locks in millions of new anti-gun voters. This anti-gun wish list could be part of the secret trade agreement that President Obama is getting ready to spring on the Congress. The trade pact is called Fast Track, and what it means is that Obama can write any form of gun control he chooses into a trade agreement, import bans, amnesty, etc. And this agreement doesn't need 2/3 vote in the Senate as a treaty would. When completed, the agreement is merely subject to majority vote in both houses. It can't be filibustered, it can't be amended, and the GOP can't refuse to consider it. Top secret TPP means you won't know what's in the bill. Reports have already surfaced that the top secret draft contains a whole chapter with a European Union style provision allowing unlimited migration from Mexico into the United States. This would fulfill Obama's dream, which he begun with executive amnesty to import millions of new anti-gun liberal voters into the country. Of course, we can't quote for you any of the language in the TPP agreement because the document is top secret. Obama won't reveal it even to most congressmen until Congress has given its imprimatur by allowing it to pass under fast-track procedures. On Monday, Politico reported if you want to hear the details of the TPP trade deal the Obama administration is hoping to pass, you've got to be a member of Congress and you've got to go to classified briefings and leave your staff and cell phone at the door. If you're a congressional member who wants to read the text, you've got to go to a room in the basement of the Capitol Visitor Center and be handed it one section at a time, watched over as you read, and forced to hand over any notes you may have before leaving. And no matter what, you can't discuss the details of what you've read. Surely even more than which Obamacare, this is a case of you have to pass it to find out what's in it. Some Republicans are being duped, but that's not all. The fast-track authority being granted to Obama and his successor for the next 6 years applies to whatever type of trade negotiation Obama chooses to enter into. So if he can write the UN Arms Trade Treaty into a trade agreement, then it can't be filibustered or amended or prevented from consideration. Tragically, many conservative Republicans have listened to business lobbyists who are focused on the free trade issues without considering the impact on personal liberties and have endorsed fast track. But one business leader recently took Republican lawmakers to the woodshed for this. By now, congressional Republicans should know better. The Obama administration has stonewalled Congress on many issues. Example, guns to Mexico and IRS scandal, and this president has ignored the law and bypassed Congress as such matters as executive amnesty and the Bergendahl prisoner exchange, the alleged economic benefits of TPP, and they are minimal, do not trump the Constitution, the law, and the proper use of fast track, which fast track there is no proper use of. It shouldn't be around. It is significant that Senator Orrin Hatch's 114-page bill specifying the goals of the U.S. trade negotiations, S-995, there is not a single word prohibiting Obama from using the agreements to implement gun control, and yet that gun control will be just as binding as if Congress enacted it in a statute. You can read an article written by GOA's Legislative Council, which goes into this issue in much more detail. Gunowners.org, and that one's titled "Secret Deal Could Contain a Myriad of Gun Restrictions and Ammo Bans." So a lot of people are worried about that, and I have one here out of InfoWars. Proof: Pentagon mapping U.S. for domestic insurgents, including libertarians, constitutionalists, and patriots. What does Master of the Human Domain on the Jade Helm 15 logo mean? Human domain, like unconventional warfare, are terms of art for military and law enforcement. Painting Texas and Utah red and labeling them hostile is just the tip of the intel iceberg that seeks to overlay a human geological map onto a physical geological map to track individuals. Rob Dew and David Knight take a look at this obscure part of the military police industrial complex and how it relates to Jade Helm. There's a video, but it's half hour long. I'm not going to do that. Um, I do think they're planning on something here. Um, it's, to be seen, but for some reason, when you see so much going on, and knowing kind of where America stands in the world and what kind of slope we're on, I definitely think we're going to start seeing problems. And they're just going to keep increasing. And the problem is a lot of times with what our reactions, have been, the rioting, the destroying is only going to further what they're trying to create. So if you see the communists out there and the these obscure leaders of these sects of communists and out there starting violent acts, well, you got to think, well, they got someone that's in the same mindset that they are in power. This will further his agenda. And one part of that agenda is the National Police Force. And I talked this past Wednesday about the potential connections with the mayor of Baltimore, with the National Police. And it's hard to gauge where this is going to end up. I am going to play this interview. It's only about a 10-minute clip here. Ron Paul and Alex Jones talked about Jade Helm, and this is Ron Paul responding to Jade Helm. And you can find it the Alex Jones channel on YouTube.
Doctor, I want to get into something you talked a lot about in the last 30 years of your public life, and that was the slow militarization of police. Now it's become a big national issue. Even the New York Times says it's a problem. They admit that the IRS is taking people's bank accounts for no reason. I mean, the IRS is persecuting the Tea Party and groups. I mean, we're really already living, I think, under a form of martial law. As you said, we're being phased into total fascism or complete fascism. The governor, Abbott, came out and put a tweet out 2 days ago saying, I want to make sure our liberties are watched and that Texas sovereignty is watched. I'm going to dispatch the Texas Guard to watch Jade Helm. I never said when we broke Jade Helm a month ago that it would be martial law. I never said that Obama was coming to take the state. I said it was more conditioning. But they have had literally thousands of articles the last month, 300 plus yesterday, every channel in Austin, national news, every channel I'm saying there's going to be martial law. The governor is, and that we're all kooks. They're attacking. Rand's been sucked into it. What do you do about these straw men where they go, oh, there is no NSA, and there is, or, Alex says there's going to be martial law, when all we're saying is there's this continued march, and they admit in Forbes that the Army is training to take on the Tea Party. I mean, we have clips of them saying the MRAPs are for the veterans. So basically, your take on this incremental boiling frog, and then these I guess you call them straw men, where they claim we said something that we didn't really say, and then when total martial law doesn't come, they say we're discredited.
Yeah, that's the way they work. I guess we do our best to just get the truth out there, and I think more people are looking for the truth and are skeptical of all the propaganda. But I was I thought that this Abbott ruling, or sending the National Guard there, was a reflection that there is a sentiment with enough people that he is responding. I don't know the governor, and I don't know personally where his views are, but I think he senses that he has to respond to this because there's enough people who are worried about it. But both sides might be doing some of the grandstanding, and so often, though, that can get out of hand. I think what is happening now is that we know about the militarization of the police and the overreaction and the difficulty with the drug war, but we also notice that there are some people that are on the receiving end of excessive police force are overreacting too, and they become very, very violent, and people can get pretty nervous about that as well. But the big overwhelming thing that drives the problem in the inner city is back to economics.
Yes, sir.
If we had a thriving economy, the problems in the inner city wouldn't be there. But if you have an entitlement system, and if you have Keynesian economics, if you have a Federal Reserve fixing it up for the rich, then the rich getting richer, and the remaining part of the middle class, the upper middle class that might be remaining and producing, the rich even go after them, and they're going to tax them and try to keep this thing going. But one thing for sure, we don't know when it'll end, but it will end. It's incapable of going for long periods of time. There's never been a paper currency, it lasts for, an indefinite period of time. They always end, and this one has gone on for way too long, and it's bigger than ever. There's never been a fiat currency like the dollar engulfing the entire world like it is today.
And they're clearly, in closing, gearing up during a collapse to try to accelerate into tyranny. I want to play a 10-second clip for you to see if you've heard it from Morgan County, Indiana, one of dozens we have, with them saying the MRAP tanks are for the veterans. Here's the clip.
We really didn't have the violence that we see today. The weaponry is totally different now than it was in the beginning of my career. Plus, you have a lot of people that are coming out of the military that have the ability and the knowledge to build IEDs and to defeat law enforcement techniques.
So there they are, Congressman, and then we have clips during pre-Jade Helm training where they're trying to take on the Tea Party. I'll play that after you leave. I'm just documenting this here. How can they say Jade Helm's for overseas when they admit that it's also for domestic snatch and grab operations?
That I don't have a complete understanding of that. I don't have a precise answer for that. All I know is it's very difficult to sort out exactly what they're up to and what they're doing. I do know that they're not worried about our liberty, and I do know that they take care of the very wealthy special interests, which this system that we have takes care of quite well.
What do you think, in closing, of Governor Abbott? I think he's been actually doing a pretty good job since he got in here in Texas.
I think so, and I didn't do anything special to help him, but I'll tell you what, we could have a lot worse. So nothing has struck me as that makes me displeased. I don't happen to watch state issues very closely. I guess his recent announcement here today about Jade Helm got my attention more than anything else. But I would say that he's doing a decent job.
It's very refreshing to just see somebody do their job like you did in Congress. God bless you, Dr. No. We really appreciate you.
Good, Alex. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much. Well, another powerful interview with former Congressman Ron Paul. I tell you, I don't get excited when I've gotten a chance to meet some of the most famous rock stars and movie stars, unless I'm fans of what they do, and then it's exciting just because I like their art. But it's just...
Okay, what's going on with Jade Helm isn't entirely, out there. We don't know the true intent of it. We see the exercises going on overseas. We see the ability for a lot of things to happen, especially a financial collapse. We do have, these possibilities for quakes and things, and a lot of people have said that, you know, we're experiencing a lot of plate um, tension. And the door's wide open for these things. To say that we have a conclusion, um, I think, you know, is definitely premature. And, even me saying that, I think it will happen on American soil is only, a presumption conclusion from what I'm seeing. And information that has been supposedly leaked. So we're going on what we know, and that the problem is the true details of it are kept secret and will probably remain secret. And what's really going to come of all this? And I think that we are going to definitely see a worldwide shift. And I really actually hope that it's something that doesn't happen on U.S. soil. And I think that's what a lot of people are afraid that's going to happen. And, the one thing Ron Paul said is, I don't know I don't know the details, the facts. I don't know exactly what's going on, but I will tell you this: they don't care about our freedom. Well, that's a powerful statement right there, saying they they have every ability to just do this, and more than likely get away with it. So it's really hard to say exactly how this will go. Okay. Now, I'm going to kind of shift gears, and we'll kind of take some of this uh, terrorist, terrorism back here to home. And we'll kind of get into this Garland thing here. Then we'll kind of continue on with what the rest of them. Now I understand the lady or whatever, people are demonizing her. Well, it's not about, is she right or wrong. It's about, you know, she's not out there actually harming people. But, being offended is bullshit. Again, just because someone hurts your feelings. This is something that we need to teach the youth. That's, who cares? And when they see that in you, a lot of times, we get our own, maybe self-involved with how we come off to other people. But if you can master, who really cares, this person thinks this, I don't care. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't affect me. Someone thinks this of your religion. I don't care. Doesn't affect me. They can think whatever the hell they want to think. You know, it's one of those things. When you can do that, I think that would help. You know, mastering that within yourself will help. You know, show the youth that's how it's done. And you know, a lot of parents do, and we all have our little mistakes, but there's some people that really I think people try way too hard to try to have others like them. And it's not about, you know, having other people like you. It's about the whole respect thing. And if you can master, you don't care what people think about you, about how you dress or your religion. You know, that respect thing will earn other people's respect. And the people that don't respect back and want to judge you, you just write off as much as possible. But let's get into this. ISIS has come to America. Lessons from the shooting in Garland, Texas. Here from Adam Kokesh on YouTube.
Now, about this imperviousness to emotional manipulation, I just want to connect this to what's going on right now, because it's so important when they bring out the fear tactics. And we had the shooting just last night in Garland, not too far from here, for those of you who don't know. I assume everybody here has heard the news by now.
Live in Garland.
Just to go over the key elements of this, you had two alleged radical Islamic terrorist extremists attack an event where they had a contest for drawing the best picture of the Prophet Muhammad. And of course, yes, they have. You know, I hear them in the stories that I've read have been like, well, some people said it was inflammatory or it was unnecessary, but they said it was freedom of speech, as if those things are contradictory. Because they have to, you know, set up this. This is the real dilemma. Is this free speech or is it inflammatory? And when they ask you the question that way, what's the implication? What's the premise? If it's inflammatory, you don't have the freedom to say it. But that's kind of a side point to this event. Because right now, this is what everybody's talking about. Because it so feeds into the mainstream fear narrative. Be very afraid. Let's remind them why they need us. And this is the perfect opportunity for them. Terrorism, 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 9/11, 9/11. Just blast that at you, right? And you know what? I really hope that this event becomes the touchstone for the global war on terror from now on. I really hope this is the best they have. You know why? This really is perfectly emblematic of the entire global war on terror. Two crazy gunmen get out of a car, spray bullets everywhere, hit one guy in the ankle, and they both get shot and killed on the scene by a bunch of cops dressed up as American military troops. Meanwhile, the same day, 22 veterans committed suicide. Meanwhile, for the average American, you are still at least, by government's numbers, 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than by a terrorist. So for those of us who already understand this, who already have this perspective, okay, terrorist headline, we're afraid of terrorism for 2 seconds, and then we step back and go back to being appropriately afraid of the police. Not that you should be living in fear by any stretch. But they always use these as excuses. 9/11, right? And if you think about it, that was the ultimate to get into the psyche of the American people. For all the people who are, promoting various theories about what actually happened that day, because we know the government story is a lie. There's so much you know, you can look at it and be like, they crafted this perfectly. It was like out of a fairy tale of statist horrors. 2 buildings came down, 3,000 people dead, terrorism. And now stop and think about it for a second. Even if everything the government has said about the story is true, how the hell do you come to the conclusion, okay, 3,000 people died, we're going to occupy 2 countries for a decade and kill millions? There's no way that adds up. No way. And even at the security at this event last night, I mean, it's almost like a perfect microcosm caricature of the global war on terror. What did they have there for security? What, like a few squads of police, right? Extra security beefed up, Dallas police, and then, I mean, they're dressed up like soldiers. They're better equipped than I was in Iraq. These guys have full body armor. They have the fancy arm shields. They have the nice patches. I mean, they're not just getting our leftovers. They're getting the good stuff. I don't know if you saw the video we posted a couple weeks ago. There was a guy who got pulled over in Florida, Lucas Jewell, by a tank. An armored vehicle patrolling the streets in Florida to pull someone over. And the guys get out, and they're wearing the same digital camouflage that I wore in the Marines. And you're just like, whoa. ISIS has come to America, and you should all be desperately afraid for the health of your ankles. That is a threat. And you look at the security. They shot an unarmed security guard. And then they had 3 squads of armed cops to respond. Murdoch, if you had been standing in front of that building when the shooting occurred, that probably would have been sufficient security, would it not?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not only that, but then we can have 36 squads of cops freed up to do something useful with their time. Imagine that. Like figuring out the roots of terrorism, figuring out how to defeat this thing, like really actually get to the roots of it, because it's the irrationality. This is the plague of statism, right? Of turning to violence to solve problems. And we know that all of those cops who were there last night, all of their equipment was paid for with money that they stole from the American people. That they've stolen from our communities. Those resources are a loss. All the effort that is gone into it. And this is the global war on terror, too. Trillions of dollars. Millions of lives lost. And I don't mean, I can just say, oh, the insanity. But aren't we kind of past that? To at least the point where we want to look for a solution instead of just beating our heads against the wall over and over again and trying the same thing with this ridiculous fear-based overreaction to a problem that, at best, is minuscule compared to the problem of government itself. I mean, I can't say it enough. I know people here get this, but when you're 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than a terrorist, and by the way, people who have figured this out with the real numbers as opposed to the government numbers say it's over 50. You're more than 50 times more likely to be killed by a cop than by a terrorist. And yet people are going to be looking at this event in Garland, the shooting last night, and say, well, ISIS is in America. Time for martial law. Time to advance the police state just a little bit more.
Freedom. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to this.
Adam Kokesh on YouTube. Now, what's going to happen can fall into even things like this. Some type of potential terror. Now, you might hear thunder occasionally in the background, have storms rolling through, and if we lose power, do what I can to get back on. We are basically left dangling, and that's why I'm always telling people, be prepared even if something doesn't happen. And it allows you, if you are better prepared, it allows you to go throughout, your day or your week or your month, normally. And it's also one of those things, if you start seeing a crazy amount of earthquakes, you're going to see the signs that maybe you need to get you and your family or whatever out of the area. But, being prepared will allow you to be more comfortable throughout your days. Definitely, if you're someone that follows the news, follows all this stuff going on, you'll be better prepared in that direction and not have to fear it either. We have people fearing gun grab and all that. And we forget too, though, we do have a lot of people that realize what's going on. They're making changes and they're making it known that they see what's going on. This one from RiseUpPatriots.com. Good, maybe eventually the UN will be ousted totally. As if I need another reason to love my home state, but here it is anyways. The UN needed to be kicked off U.S. soil, and any and all laws or regulations or policies that were enacted because of the UN need to be scrapped. This organization will be the death of all national sovereignty worldwide, which is their goal. The bill reads in part, a governmental entity may not enter into agreement or contract with, accept money from or grant money or other financial aid to a non-governmental or intergovernmental organization accredited by the United Nations to implement a policy that originated in the Agenda 21 plan adopted by members of the United Nations at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development in June 1992. Agenda 21, so named because it sets an agenda for the 21st century. It's supposed to be an exercise to promote environmental sustainability. And this is Texas again. A bill passed, or a bill is attempting to be passed. Let me pull it up here from the Conservative Tribune. Maybe. Yeah, link directly to it. Okay, I'll go back to this. There's going to be more of this. One group that's done it is the 10th Amendment Center, and they've helped write language to nullify things federal level, and this kind of takes it a step, and anything that comes out of that seems to be not allowed to be implemented, and I think, if this is something that's passed, first thing I would do is look into a lot of the organizations, definitely with nature trails or bike trails that are trying to link little towns with the big city and the big cities where they operate. I'd look at those places. And a lot of the people that work with those groups at the local level a lot of times are these, not all of them, but a lot of times what I've seen is they're really just these people that don't really have a sense of anything when it comes to, rights or laws, or, they think it's a good idea and they just presume that because they are working with the city, they have unlimited authority on this matter. And so, it's a constant thing of no checks and balances at all. And government continues to always grow to that. You see throughout history, any type of governmental body always, and even, the monarchs and all that. This tends to be what it always turns into. So check into those groups. Here's a little bit of good news. This from the Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org. Court. NSA's mass surveillance is illegal. The Second Circuit strikes down bulk collection of U.S. phone records. In a ruling certain to profoundly shape the ongoing debate over surveillance reform in Congress, the U.S. Court of Appeals in the Second Circuit today held that the National Security Agency's indiscriminate collection of American cell phone calling records exceeds the legal authority granted by the Patriot Act's controversial Section 215, which is set to expire at the end of this month. Legislation to reform and constrain the authority, the U.S. Freedom Act, has drawn broad bipartisan support. Now, we warned you about this U.S. Freedom Act. It's kind of sitting in the background as here's the, alternative. We'll get rid of the Patriot Act. And it says here, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has stubbornly pressed ahead with a bill to reauthorize 215 without any changes. But the Second Circuit court ruling gives even defenders of the NSA program powerful reason to support reform. McConnell and other reform opponents have consistently insisted, in defiance of overwhelming evidence, that the NSA program is an essential tool in the fight against terrorism, and that any reform would hinder efforts to keep Americans safe, a claim rejected even by the leaders of the intelligence community. Talk about being more Catholic than the Pope. A few notable points from the ruling itself, echoing the reasoning of the Privacy and Civil Liberties Oversight Board's extremely thorough report on 215. The Second Circuit rejected the tortured legal logic underpinning both the NSA telephone program and the non-defunct program that gathering international internet metadata in bulk. The government had persuaded the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court to interpret an authority to get records relevant to an authorized investigation as permitting collection of entire vast database of information, the overwhelming majority of which are clearly not relevant to any investigation, on the premise that it allows the NSA to later search the specific records that are relevant. As the court noted, this not only defies common sense, but is widely inconsistent with the way the standard of relevance, which governs subpoenas and court orders used in routine criminal investigations, has been interpreted for decades. And this goes on, but I'm sure this will be still at the forefront of the fight. And right now, we have a leg up. And again, that's from Foundation for Economic Education, FEE.org, FEE.org. And this is breaking. It's kind of gone pretty viral now. Um, I have it here from offthegridnews.com. Breaking, police seize 10 children from homeschool family because they're off grid. An off-grid homeschool family of 12 in rural Kentucky was raided, the mother arrested, and the 10 children seized simply because the government disagrees with their lifestyle and their educational choices, family members and friends say. Until Wednesday, Joe and Nicole Nogler lived with their 10 kids in a cabin on 26 acres in Breckenridge County, about an hour southwest of Louisville. They are extremely happy family friend Pace Ellsworth told Off the Grid News. Acting on the anonymous tip about the family's off-grid lifestyle, sheriff officers entered the property and home Wednesday and even blocked the access road to the family property. The family says Joe and 8 of the children were away, but Nicole, who is 5 months pregnant, was home with the 2 oldest kids. Sheriff deputies then seemingly allowed Nicole and the 2 children to drive away, but they got only a short distance before deputies pulled them over and took the 2 children away from the mom, who was arrested for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. She says the arrest took place after she did not passively allow deputies to take the children. Nicole was able to contact her husband and have a brief conversation. Later, the sheriff ordered Joe to turn over the other children by 10 a.m. or be arrested for felony charges. The family says he complied. Deputies also threatened to impound the car, although a friend of the family convinced the deputies allowed Joe to have it back. The family may be off-grid, but they aren't anonymous. In fact, they have internet as well as Facebook page dating back to 2012 where they frequently post pictures and videos of their children, animals, and off-grid life. On May 5th, post showed a video of a toddler Messiah learning to walk. And April 24th, post showed a happy family gathering around a campfire roasting marshmallows. They also post pictures alluding to their faith. Their Facebook page, which has nearly 2,000 likes, is called My Blessed Little Homestead. Child Protective Services never visited the home, said Ellsworth, who believes the arrest took place because the parents' choice of unschooling for their children and because their simple way of life that some would call backwards. The family's Facebook page calls it back to basic life. Lost my spot here. Says here, they have a garden and raise animals. Deputies apparently were concerned about whether the children's needs were being met, but friends say they personally have no concerns and that the children are blessed to have Joe and Nicole as their parents. In unschooling, there is no set curriculum, and the education is based on each child's strength. You let your kids decide the curriculum, Ellsworth told Off the Good News. In unschooling, education doesn't take a backseat. It's listening to what they're interested in and fascinated in. It is the way all children learn before the public education movement, he said. This is a natural way to live, he said. It's actually a growing movement. They want to have a personal education and not a factory education. Ellsworth called it whole life homeschooling. They are completely open about their life, he said. Everyone is learning by living, and there all extremely intelligent. Family have huge legal bills, and friends have set up a GoFundMe campaign here. More information about the family can be read here and here. And GoFundMe.com/TZ4XNG. That's TZ4XNG. And if you go to Off the Grid News and find the story there, um, the links are all there. So I went to their little Facebook page here, and if you want to check out their website, it's blessedlittlehomestead.blogspot.com. And it's My Blessed Little Homestead on Facebook. And they posted 43 minutes ago. Says, I know these posts are all over the web, so I hope this gets to the right people. I don't know where my children are, but if you have them, tell me. We miss and love them dearly. We will see them soon. My heart is broken. I have been trying to keep busy with legal stuff to keep my mind busy. It's going to be the longest weekend of my life. And it's pretty heartbreaking. And I think that we constantly see the attacks on these type of families, homeschooling, unschooling, all of that. It's off the grid. People are constantly under attack. People that want raw milk are always under attack. It's important that we share this stuff. And luckily, this story made it to the net pretty quick. And hopefully the public will have enough outcry, and any way you can help them. Again, the GoFundMe, and even if you're in the area or you want to look it up, find out. Again, where was this? This was Breckenridge County. Call the county sheriff. This about an hour southwest of Louisville, Breckenridge County. Go up there and make a ruckus. Make it so much of a thing that they can't get away from it. They have to let it go, return the kids. And, hopefully what they can raise will pay any legal costs. And hopefully even pay enough legal costs to allow the lawyers to do something to try to help prevent this from happening again. But, it's been the public a lot of times when these things go viral. Eustace Conway, he fought his legal battles about his buildings. And luckily, I'm Facebook friends with some of the other activists and other alternative media people, and some of them are page administrators on my Facebook page. So, we made things like that go viral, and people stood up, and it shows what can happen. Justina Pelletier, even though that was even a harder thing, basically, I think, because I think at that point they were afraid to release her because of the condition she was in. Once they took control of her, her condition went downhill like a roller coaster. It just shot straight down. And they're trying to get her back healthy. But, a lot of times we see state care as being one of the worst things for children, and definitely hospitalized state care, because things like what happened with Justina Pelletier, once they become state property, according to the hospital, they can be used as for experimental things, basically, because the state has control and no parents, when her parents were the ones that brought her to the hospital. And it was a fight between doctors, basically. The doctor she came there to see from the Tufts Medical Center, and he never was even allowed access. So we see this type of stuff over and over. Okay, where are we? I'm going to play something that Adam Kokesh posted, and this was at the same event down in Texas that he was at. This was Macy Tomlin on love and freedom, and I did find this kind of a good listen, definitely for a lot of different people that I don't think they think hate and freedom is the way to go, or something. I don't know. But I want to go ahead and play this while I'm trying to get this other thing to load.
I've never been to Texas before. This is my first time.
Yeah!
For 18 years, I was a statist. My mom grew me up as a liberal. I wanted guns taken away. I loved the government. I loved it. And I wanted everybody's guns to be taken away. And literally an hour ago, I was marching down the street with a shotgun on my shoulder. When I was 19, I was a Hooters girl, and I was, like I said, a statist, and I loved the government, and one of my friends was like, I need to show you this documentary. It was called Zeitgeist, and I was like, nah, okay, whatever. And she played it, and it flipped my world upside down. It took everything that I knew, everything that I was taught to believe, and just turned it. And I should actually say it flipped my world right side right. And I began my journey then. And I was angry, of course. Everybody is. If you're not human when you learn the truth about the government. And I eventually couldn't handle the news and the media anymore. And I went within for about 4 years. And I know that Adam was a huge, protester at this time, but somehow I never found him. And I was a huge follower of Alex Jones, and I saw Adam once. And I saw him when he got arrested for loading a shotgun, and I was like, oh, who's that guy? I never paid attention to him after that. And then last year, I was able to bring myself back into, my anger turned from anger to awareness. And I was able to bring myself back into what the government was doing and how it was enforcing laws that were not good for our freedom. And then one day I found a documentary that was with Adam, and I saw it, and I had only tweeted once before. I literally made a Twitter account, and I never used it. And I watched this documentary with Adam, and I was like, I have got to tell this guy how amazing he is. So I went online, and I went on Twitter, and I said, at Adam Kokesh, this was in September of last year, I love you. So I got that out of the way right away. And I love everything that you stand behind, and I stand behind you. And he got back to me the next day. And I'm in Wisconsin at this point, so I wasn't expecting anything. I just wanted to tell him how cool he was. And he got back to me, and we started talking. And I realized when we were talking that we had this bond that I've never felt before. And he offered me a trip to LA, and he said, if we click, we do. If you don't, you get a free trip to LA. And I was like, cool.
Okay. Now I want to play that because it talks about, you know, people in the freedom movement coming from both sides. You know, I came from more, you know, I had a liberal family, but I was that Republican, you know, business is cool, and you know, that's my mindset. Was actually quite a bit different than my family, but yeah, I always had that. But I think it's because the whole that illusion that, you know, they were for, you know, guns, and they were the ones that were, you know, the whole BS fallacy that we're brought up under. And it was one of those things that when I really, the further I got towards liberty, the more liberal people I came. Then I also, you know, found a lot of things that we agreed on, that I am more liberal in those senses. The one thing that I found with myself that I was finding with the ones that came from the more liberal background is we would tend to say the same thing, that, you know, the conservatives would always call you liberal, and the liberals would always call you conservatives, and that's because you believe in freedom. You don't, you know, step some, you know, line that they draw up, that they expect you to be on board with. And then that line's always constantly moved. So, it's one of those things that if we can, we really could win over people from both parties to the point that we could actually have an effect. But effect on what? I think it would have to almost become more of a vote of no confidence. And when they try to go, well, what are you going to replace us with? Nothing. We will stand up for other states when it comes to, you know, some forces trying to come in and throw their government out. And people choose who to do business with, who not to do business with. And we respect people's freedoms. And we keep scaling back. From, you know, state government to local government to self-governance. And well, we could get there if we really actually attempted it. I really believe we could. It'd be a long road, but we could get there. I do want to play something since I played Ron Paul a little bit earlier. There was some news here from Ron Paul today. Campaign for Liberty chairman Ron Paul announced yesterday that he was ending his relationship with Voices of Liberty and the Ron Paul channel and starting his own new venture. Watch the announcement below. So here we go. Maybe. It's not blowing people's ears out.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to this special announcement. I'd like to give you an update about my internet programming because there are going to be some exciting changes coming. But before I do that, I want to thank all of you for the support you have given me over the years. I've been involved in politics since the 1970s. I've had various congressional races and presidential races, and I've had tremendous support, and that indeed I appreciate. But the message that I have tried to deliver over the years has always been the same, and that is spreading the message of liberty. Right now, I'm very much engaged in doing that through the internet, and so far it's been going very well, but I believe we can do a lot better. Right now, the name of the program has changed. It's called the Ron Paul Liberty Report. And that's what we do. We report on liberty in context of what's going on in daily activity and what's going on in the news. One of the big differences is that it's going to be more locally controlled. This will be developed and produced out of Texas. It's not going to be in California. I'll have more control of this and more flexibility, and I believe it's going to be a lot better and a lot more interesting. So it's going to be called, like I said, the Ron Paul Liberty Report, and it will not be in California where the production is done. Matter of fact, I will no longer be affiliated with the Ron Paul channel or Voices of Liberty. And I would like to also let you know that there will be no fees for this, no charges for this. This will be information that's put out there for anybody who wants it and for anybody who wants to spread the message. There will be no paywall. But there's a lot that you can do to help. And finances is one thing, and that will be my responsibility. But your responsibility will be to help me spread this message. If the message gets spread, I am sure there will be individuals who will be quite willing to help us out in broadcasting this message. This, to me, is the most important thing that we do. But more importantly, on the show itself, I want the show to be timely. I don't want to do a report and have it pop up in a week or two and then have to pay for the programming. What I want to do is have it timely. Matter of fact, I want to live stream it. And we have the ability to do this now. And that is being done on the Ron Paul Liberty Report YouTube channel. And it's going to happen at the noon hour Central Time on a regular basis. And I think this makes the program that much more important. I also will continue all my contacts with my former staff members in Washington and around the country, the ones that helped me in the congressional office. You already know Daniel McAdams quite well because he's a co-host of this program. And there are the other ones that are involved too, and they have been very helpful to me to keep up with what the government is doing, what the legislation is doing, and the news of the day. So that will continue. I want to have close relationship with all the libertarian freedom groups and do whatever we can to help them as well as we cooperate. I want to do a lot of interview the individuals that are important. We've done those in the past, but we want to continue to do this. If we get the information to you that is important and explanations the best we can, this can become a very, very valuable program. And I will indeed put my effort into it and hope that you can enjoy yourself with it and also spread this message. So once again, I want to thank you very much for this, and please stay tuned and come back to the Ron Paul Liberty Report.
Okay, there you have it. he's definitely not going to be with Voices of Liberty or the Ron Paul channel. He will now, what was he calling it now? The Liberty Report. So check it out. And like you said, there will be no paywall at all for that. And he wants to work with other Liberty people and best to him. So I have some more articles here. This one from ammoland.com. South Carolina permitless carry passes House 90 to 18. In Arizona, constitutional carry gaining momentum in the states. Kansas recently passed legislation making it the sixth state to have constitutional carry, where people who may legally own guns have the right to carry them openly or concealed. Mississippi passed a bill characterized as 90% constitutional carry, and a bill is pending in Maine that has majority support in the legislature and likely support of the governor. The South Carolina bill H. 3025 recently passed the second read in the South Carolina House 90 to 18. It still has to pass a third read, but amendments on the third read are required to be unanimous. From the Facebook page, one of the legislators who authored the amendment, please join me in saying thank you to the 90 members of the South Carolina House of Representatives who today, by a vote of 90 to 18, gave second reading to the Clemens Yao Hickson South Carolina Second Amendment Empowerment Act H. 3025 with the amendment by Representative Mike Pitts and myself to authorize permitless concealed carry by every South Carolinian who can legally purchase a handgun. The bill, as now amended, allows South Carolina CWP holders to carry in 27 states instead of the current 20, including Georgia, and opens the door to recognize every state's concealed carry permit. Additionally, the amendment authorizes every law-abiding South Carolina who can legally purchase a firearm to carry it concealed without a permit. The bill awaits third reading in the House next Tuesday and then passes to the Senate for consideration. Thank you to every member of the South Carolina House who supports the Second Amendment. This is a permitless carry bill instead of a constitutional carry bill because it would allow concealed carry without a permit but not open carry. The bill also expands reciprocity to all other states. Concealed carry permits. South Carolina is one of the only 6 states that prohibit open carry. It is likely that Texas will be removed from that short list this year from the bill. And it has there. Okay, again, you can read the rest of that at ammoland.com. This from Anti-Media. Mark Rubio is being funded by private for-profit prisons. And that's something we talk about all the time. It is a for-profit prison system. We have a industrial prison system here in America, and it's prisons for profit. A lot of times they'll come in and they'll agree to build a prison to help, the city or whatever, but then they also put like a quota on the city on what they need. They need it filled to this maximum. Why? Because it's a for profit. So for them to make profit, they need this many people to fill it. And they pay by head, basically. Well, here, and we know that's what helps continue things like the drug war. So we have one here, antimedia.org, the antimedia.org. Everyone's favorite water-guzzling Republican, Mark Rubio, wants to be the next president of the United States. And as all campaigns typically go, politicians need money to get noticed. Big Pharma, oil corporation, bankers, and the gun lobby are notorious for wielding their checkbooks to buy influence in Washington. The script is no conspiracy. At this point, wealthy companies target at Brooks Brothers suit-wearing panhandler attempting to claw their way to the top of the political food chain. Cash is exchanged for alliances are made. One rising player in the game of buying and selling politician is surprisingly going unnoticed: the private, for-profit prison industry. While one can only assume that it's not by accident that these companies and their contributions are flying under the general public's radar, as we as a people need to place a media tracking device on the activities of these professional jailers. GEO and Corrections Corporation of America are the two largest for-profit prison companies in the United States. These companies, along with their peers, have dished out more than $10 million to political campaigns since 1989, and almost $25 million has been spent on lobbying efforts. What has this expense bought the prison industry? Apparently has purchased quite a bit. These private businesses generate $3.3 billion in annual revenue, and their market share has skyrocketed. Private prisons make money by keeping people locked up behind their concrete walls. Politicians assist in passing laws. The more laws that are on the books, the more criminals that are created. The more criminals that exist, the more money a private prison can accumulate. The more money a lobbyist has at his disposal, the more money a politician can receive. As anyone can piece together, this process describes a vicious cycle of corruption that currently plagues Washington. While this unscrupulous financial merry-go-round benefits the parties involved, it is the innocent person on the street who suffers. The private federal prison population more than doubled between 2000 and 2010. Nearly half of the immigrants in prison are currently housed in the cells of private companies. That number was roughly 25% a decade ago. There are approximately 130 private prisons currently operating in the United States. Mark Rubio, the U.S. Senator from the state of Florida and a current presidential candidate, is a direct beneficiary of the racket that is the private prison system in the United States. In fact, Rubio is the U.S. Senate's top career recipient of contributions from previously mentioned GEO, the country's second largest for-profit prison company. GEO has put nearly $40,000 in Rubio's campaign fund and given another $2 million to the Republican Party of Florida, Rubio's home state. The prison company and current senator have been in bed together going all the way back to when Rubio served as the Speaker of the Florida House of Representatives. While leading the House, GEO was awarded a state government contract for a $110 million facility. It was not long after that, Rubio hired an economic consultant who just so happened to be a former trustee of a GEO real estate trust. It should also be noted that GEO's group co-founder and chief executive, George Zolli, has personally donated $6,480 to Rubio since 2009. After Rubio had been elected to the U.S. Senate in 2010, he appointed Cesar Conda as chief of staff. Conda, who is a professional lobbyist by trade, is the co-founder of a company called Navigators Global. By what could be no coincidence, it just so happens that Navigators Global is GEO's principal lobbying firm. Even after Conda joined Rubio's staff in 2011, the lobbyist still accepted payments of $150,000 from his former employer. In 2014, the chief of staff took a leadership position in Rubio's Reclaim America PAC as a senior advisor. Unsurprisingly, GEO became a top 10 financial donor to the PAC, contributing $16,000 in 2014. No matter how many Fox News pundits or even Rubio himself stay silent on the subject, the facts dictate that the junior senator from Florida is a stooge for the private prison industry. Do you believe that Rubio was elected by his constituents to serve the people of Florida, or a corporation that profits by imprisoning those same voters? Floridians have been duped into voting for this swarthy charlatan, but an entire nation can't afford to be seduced by such a two-faced frontman for oppression. It's okay though. Rubio says he stands for the American people. Nothing to see here. Keep moving along. Again, the antimedia.org. Now, and that's the thing. Almost all these politicians are sold out to these type of people. Doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. I think most of us have learned that a long time ago. At least I hope we did. How many times do we have to go through the same thing to learn that it doesn't exactly work out? It never did, never will. Could a good person ever make it into office? I don't think so anymore. And if they amazingly did, would they last? It's one of those things, it's really hard to tell. What would happen if we did get a really good, freedom-loving person in office? Socialists would probably take to the streets. That's something that wouldn't surprise me. Okay, give me a second again here. I don't think I played this. It kind of goes back almost to, the whole thing about the people that are, homeschooling, living off the grid for the most part. And I think it's amazing because government and these people that claim to be for freedom will quickly turn on you. And this is someone I've never liked because you hear him talk long enough, you understand he's just trying to play a game. Ben Carson from Network, Ben Carson, forced vaccinations for all.
With the virtually bombed out city of Detroit behind him and his wife playing the violin, Dr. Ben Carson, the South Florida neurosurgeon, has entered the presidential race. Tea Partiers everywhere are certainly happy to see Ben Carson join the race. His stance on the Constitution and other issues is a delight. However, one thing must be brought to the table here, and that's his desire to have forced vaccinations upon all Americans. You'd think that being a neurosurgeon, he would have some sort of background in understanding what happens when you inject mercury and thimerosal into the body and what it does to the blood-brain barrier in developing children and adults. However, he still believes that vaccines are safe and should be forced upon all Americans. That is not what this nation is about. This nation is about freedom to choose and not to be forced into any situation. So as the Tea Party gathers behind Ben Carson and waves their American flags, he stands behind them, ready to inject every single one of them, whether they like it or not, with vaccines. Do the homework. You'll find out for yourself. He stands 100% behind forced vaccinations upon all Americans. If you're a Tea Partier and you're considering supporting Ben Carson, think about that aspect. If you like him or not, leave your comments below. I'd love to see what your thoughts are on Ben Carson. More Selection 2016 news today. I'm Gary Franchi, signing off.
Next News Network. And that shows again, you know, the people behind, you know, the some of the Tea Party, or that the Tea Party's behind. And you know, I still think back to, you know, 07 and 08 and the whole beginning of the modern Tea Party movement. And it was behind Ron Paul. It was, you know, calling Ron Paul to go out there and run. And I look at what we have now for a Tea Party, which many of those original Tea Party left or kind of were pushed out. And we don't see a Tea Party that really critically thinks things. When we see a large swath of them support people like, you know, any of these guys really. And I think I played the one on Ted Cruz. Yeah, I played you guys the one about Ted Cruz. Why you should not vote for Ted Cruz in 2016 from We Are Change. I have another one here with Rubio from We Are Change. Why you should not vote for Mark Rubio in 2016. He also has one about Rand Paul that you guys can check out. But I'm going to play this one about Mark Rubio.
Son of a Cuban who rode the Tea Party wave in 2010 to national prominence, has just announced his bid for the 2016 presidential election. And just like we do with every candidate, we're going to tell you exactly who he is so you know who you are voting for. Now, Marco Rubio rode in on the Tea Party wave, but of course, many people in the Tea Party were influenced by other people like the Koch brothers. And a lot of money was sent their way, and their policies changed from freedom to being a complete and utter neocon corporate globalist whore. And we see that with the progression of Rubio as a senator. Now, Marco Rubio has an interventionist foreign policy now. See, the Tea Party was about freedom, it's about isolationism, was about liberation, and not about foreign aggressions. It's about standing your ground. But now Marco Rubio is standing on the forefront of us being the world global power and bombing people to spread democracy, continuing the same fallacies that have hindered this country for many, many years. Now, Marco Rubio, in a speech to the corporate sellout globalist elite Council on Foreign Relations, even said himself that the United States needs to prepare themselves with war with Iran. What? Huh? It gets worse. It gets a lot worse. Marco Rubio also calls for the U.S. to strike Iran. He calls for unilateral military solution when it comes to the Iran situation. No negotiations, no coming to the table. Let's just bomb any country that we disagree with, especially with our foreign policy and our corporate global dollar hegemony, and we'll destroy them and we'll bomb them. That's exactly what he is calling for. When he's calling for bombing Iran, people have to understand that Iran is one of the few countries who is actually fighting ISIS on the ground. Iranian soldiers are combating ISIS. They're not doing this with any support or help from the United States. But Marco Rubio wants to give more ammunition to the Syrian rebels. Who are the Syrian rebels that the United States has been funding, has been giving ammunition to, and weapons and arms and all this technology? It comes out that it all goes into the hands of ISIS, and that's why Iraqi generals, Iraqi soldiers are finding Israeli and American military equipment when they're defeating ISIS on the ground. When ISIS retreats, they find American hardware on the ground. And Marco Rubio wants to enforce ISIS, give them more money. I mean, it's a very well-known fact. We covered this on our YouTube channel for many times. It's documented. Syrian rebels are ISIS. They're al-Nusra. They're al-Qaeda. They're all one radical Islamic huge terrorist organization that's trying to get rid of Assad because Assad is against U.S. foreign policy and against the U.S. dollar hegemony. We all know this. He wants to bomb Iran and prepare the American people to bomb Iran, the one country that's fighting this international criminal terrorist organization, ISIS. Meanwhile, he wants to fund ISIS and continue this fake war on terror that we've been involved in since 9/11. And of course, that's why he says George W. Bush did a fantastic job as president. Yes, the Iraq war, the Afghanistan war, the banker bailouts, his failed foreign policy and domestic policy that eroded national sovereignty and freedom is great. That's why he's giving speeches at globalist think tanks like the Council on Foreign Relations that really run our foreign policy by the corporate globalist elites. It's all admitted throughout history, even by the Council on Foreign Relations, that makes bold statements about how they want to erode national sovereignty, get rid of personal freedoms. And that's why Marco Rubio is aligning himself, especially after getting all that Koch money, with the neoconservatives. And of course, if you're a neocon, you have to support Israel. And that's why Marco Rubio, in a public speech on the Senate floor, talks about how Israel needs more funding, more help, and it should be a priority to the United States like it's not already, with the U.S. sending billions of dollars to Israel every single year. He wants more of that. He wants to continue this neocon policy that's been initiated by George W. Bush. And he sucked up so well that even the Bilderberg Group in 2012 was considering him to be the vice president. If you don't know what the Bilderberg Group is, you need to look at this insidious corporate globalist think tank that 150 of the world's most powerful people gather in secret and decide what's going to happen. They decided, even the New York Times admitted, this globalist think tank even decided who's going to be the vice president for John Kerry, and it was John Edwards. At previous meetings, it was admitted. We have people like Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, and all these other elites right before becoming presidents, attending these secret meetings and coming into power by the people who really run things behind the scenes. And that's why Marco Rubio was even considered, and that's why I tried to even ask him this question one-on-one, as you could see in this video.
What are your thoughts on the Bilderberg Group and the speculation that they may choose you to be VP? We're just asking a question.
No.
No comment on the Bilderberg Group, Mr. Rubio?
And then again, I ended up asking him that question about 4 or 5 times throughout the day. I didn't, take no for an answer. And of course, no. And his security guards are all around him, as you can see. Definitely watch this video. It's going to be in the description below with all the sources in this video. I demanded an answer from Marco Rubio, and of course he was put on the spot and ran away like a little coward because he cannot talk honestly and openly about what's really happening behind the scenes, and it's all really a big game. And not only is he just a total neocon, but he also does not believe in personal freedoms in the United States, not only with its foreign policy, but it was domestic policy, because he says the NSA spying is no big deal. It's a fact of life, and we should accept the NSA taking photos, sexed photos, naked photos of ourselves, and then trading them within the office. This is what the NSA does. This is what Edward Snowden leaked. They have your dick pics. They have all your private images. They spy on every little detail of your life and collect it in a huge database. And they are trying to create a God power where they see and hear everything, and they already have it. And Marco Rubio, of course, sees no problem with this in any way, shape, or form. How could he, being the total corporate globalist sellout that he really is? And of course, Marco Rubio doesn't believe in relaxing pot laws in any way, shape, or form, even though pot has helped many people with medical conditions get over their suffering. Of course, he does not believe in personal freedoms. We have to criminalize marijuana so we could throw more people in jail. Total globalist scumbag. If you want to vote for Marco Rubio, you are voting for a neocon, corporate globalist, pro-NSA spying, pro-war, anti-freedom, sellout, douchebag candidate of 2016.
We Are Change on YouTube, wearechange.org. Go check them out. Now, before we come to the end of the broadcast, I did have one thing that I wanted to put out there. This is from PontiacTribune.com. New app brings police accountability to a new level. The ACLU of California now offers an app which ensures that your right to film police interactions won't be compromised. Even if authorities attempt to delete the footage or destroy your phone, Mobile Justice California works by synchronously transmitting video directly to ACLU servers with an option to report that footage when recording stops, thereby preserving the encounter even if you lose physical control of your phone. Quote, we want to multiply the number of cameras that can be trained on police officers at any time, Executive Director at the ACLU of Southern California, Hector Villagra, explained. They need to know that anything they do could be seen by the entire world. The need for civilians to record the police is crucial as incidents of brutality and murder by law enforcement continue around the country. Though the filming of police is constitutional right, Leos are increasingly hostile toward people who record them. In one case, a California woman was filming when a U.S. Marshal aggressively approached her, slammed her phone to the ground, and kicked it down the street. Though a third party recorded the encounter and uploaded it to YouTube. Murder charges against South Carolina officer Michael Slago, who shot unarmed Walter Scott in the back as he fled, almost certainly would have been possible if the crime weren't captured on the tape by an alert citizen. You can read the rest of the article. That's Pontiac Tribune. I guess I'll read the rest here. It's not, well, yeah, I can read it. Once the report option is pressed, the ACLU considers it to be a request for legal assistance and analyzes the tape. Nothing further is done unless a formal request is made, and since it's considered a legal matter, vital confidentiality is preserved. The ACLU can still share the video with media or other organizations as they deem necessary in the interest of holding law enforcement accountable for their actions. Also included with the app is Know Your Rights, which are guides for understanding what is constitutionally protected when filming a local, state, or federal police interaction. But the ACLU emphasizes that since only those tapes which show significant cause for public concern will be disclosed, the necessity for recording trumps individual privacy. Southern California ACLU Senior Staff Attorney Peter Bibbering explained, obviously an interaction with a police officer isn't someone's brightest moment, but when you weigh that against the First Amendment right to film police, the First Amendment wins out. Mobile Justice is available in English or Spanish from Apple's App Store and Google Play for users in California and Oregon. Mississippi and Missouri have similar versions, and 40,000 videos have been uploaded on New York City's version in the 3 years since its inception. Recording instances of abuse and brutality by police is absolutely vital in the fight to hold them responsible for such actions, but proposed law in Texas would make it a crime to do so on the grounds of interference, so pressuring lawmakers is key. The Constitution and Bill of Rights were written with a keen amount of foresight, even though the authors could never have predicted the level of technology now in existence. It is of paramount importance that we ensure our rights and protections don't simply slip away unnoticed. So, we don't have time, of course, but there is a video that goes along with that. Pontiac Tribune, new app brings police accountability to a new level. And the video is titled Mobile Justice CA, Justice Within Reach. Before we end the broadcast here, I want to tell you guys about the UCY store. If you go to ucy.tv and click the UCY store tab, it takes you to UCY's Amazon store. UCY partnered with Amazon and have created their own store, which you can still go to the Amazon from that store and find other great things that you're looking for. But UCY store there on Amazon has some of the biggest collection of prepping, camping, and radiation preparation gear that I think I've ever seen put together in one place, definitely from Amazon. So if you go check them out, anything that you purchase, you're getting the same great deal through Amazon, and it's not marked up at all, but UCY gets a little kickback to help cover our operating costs. So go check them out, UCY store tab at ucy.tv. And we rely on the support of the listeners out there to keep these type of broadcasts and all the other great hosts up on the air. UCY has given us hosts a great platform to reach you. And don't forget about the TuneIn app too. Get the TuneIn app on your smartphone and search for ucy.tv. Also, to help on this end and help Anti-Tyranny News expand, if you go to antityrannynews.com/mypatriot, it takes you to My Patriot Supply. This is my personal choice for non-GMO seeds, and they come with great deals, and I like the seed vaults. They have a herb one, a medicinal herb, and a 1 acre crisis garden, and great prices on those. And when you go through that, that helps give us a little kickback to help cover our operating costs on this end. So go to antityrannynews.com/mypatriot. Check out My Patriot Supply. Don't forget ucy.tv and click the UCY store tab. Now, we're reaching a point that our nation really is teetering on the point of where we're going to have some type of evolution, or we're going to see the true tyranny just come over us like a giant blanket that will really smother life as we know it here in America. And when we see government so unconcerned with your freedom and protecting those who basically have robbed from us. So it's really important that we prepare. It's important that we educate others and, expand other people's minds. And I think the message of freedom, I think, is the most appealing if you really get down to the roots of it. Because it allows you to live your lives with the understanding you don't cause harm to other people or force anything upon other people. Okay, coming up after this, definitely check out Primer Time Radio here on ucy.tv. And coming up after Primer Time, schedule's popping up here. Sorry, give me a second here. Coming up after Primer Time Radio with Michael and Nick, we have Truth on the Tracks with Brandon Tuberville. That's a replay, but definitely check them out. United Front Radio with Danella and Walls and Kyle McCarthy. And of course, tonight, as always, 5 days a week, 11 to 12 a.m., the Anti-Media Radio with Levone. So check them out. And keep supporting UCY. Spread UCY throughout social media. And make sure people are tuning in. Have a great weekend and stay tuned.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.